To give his ex-wife a sense of security, my husband pulled out a marital agreement at the wedding and forced me to sign it in front of everyone. The agreement contained only 3 simple clauses. First, you must carefully raise my stepdaughter, and you are not allowed to get pregnant without the permission of my ex-wife. Second, after marriage, all your salary must be handed over for family expenses. You are not allowed to keep any secret savings. Thirdly, and most importantly, you must carefully attend to my ex-wife, be available at all times, and not refuse under any pretext. Promiser, Clara. My mind went numb, and it took me a long moment to react. So, Emily isn't some distant relative at all, but Ethan's ex-wife from years ago? And the flower girl who just cried and slammed the wedding ring onto me, she's his daughter? The overwhelming absurdity and disbelief made my heart skip a beat, and a sharp pain pulsed through my head. Ethan saw me dazed and whispered with a smile in my ear, "Good wife, I know you're pregnant. Don't worry, I've already made arrangements. You'll go to another city for prenatal checkups and to have the baby. I'll make sure to spend more time with you. Emily feels insecure. You just need to sign and show your support. Think of it as giving her a written guarantee, okay?" It was only at this moment that I finally understood. He didn't want to marry me, he just wanted to find a long-term, free provider for his ex-wife and child. I looked up at Ethan, feeling a chilling unfamiliarity in the man dressed in a suit before me. Before I could speak, my throat tightened painfully. "Didn't you tell me you were unmarried? Ethan, did you lie to me?" No sooner had the words left my mouth than my eyes welled up with tears. I had imagined so many futures with him, marriage, children, a lifetime together, but never once did I think that on the very first day of marrying him, at the wedding itself, he would deliver such a fatal blow. We had been in a relationship for 2 years, but he kept it all hidden from me, even going so far as to say that his daughter Anna was his niece. As for Emily, it's only now that I belatedly realize where her deliberate targeting and difficulties toward me came from. I squeezed my eyes shut tightly, suppressing the surge of tears. It turned out they were the real family of 3, and I was nothing more than an intruder who had crossed the line. I asked Ethan, "Is tricking me fun? Watching me spin around like a clown at your whim, does that make you happy? Want me to go to the countryside for prenatal checkups and childbirth? Then what's the point of marrying you? Tell me." My heart ached so badly I could barely breathe, and finally, I couldn't hold back the tears. Seeing me cry, Ethan frowned, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes. He hurriedly tried to slip the diamond ring onto my ring finger, soothing me softly, "No, darling, don't cry, I never meant to deceive you." Before he could finish speaking, Emily suddenly pushed open the door to the wedding banquet hall. She sat in a wheelchair, her face pale, her gaze fixed on the diamond ring in Ethan's hand, a flash of bitterness flickering in her eyes. But the words she spoke were timid and humble. "Maybe I shouldn't have come? But Clara is going to be Anna's stepmother. I just wanted to come and give you my blessings." "Ethan, have you upset Clara again? Go and make it up to her quickly." The diamond ring meant for my ring finger was abruptly snatched back by Ethan and hidden in his palm. But because the movement was too sudden, the ring fell onto the floor, producing a sharp, clear sound. Ethan looked like a child who had done something wrong and instinctively explained to Emily, "Emily, don't overthink it, this is just a normal part of the wedding process. Are you feeling better?" The spot where the diamond ring had just touched my fingertip felt as if the skin had been peeled away, burning with a fiery pain. At this moment, I felt like a puppet stripped of its soul. Aside from the dryness in my eyes that stung painfully, I couldn't utter a single word. I could only force down the nausea churning in my chest, trembling as I fought to keep from vomiting right then and there. Emily tugged at the corner of her mouth, cleared her throat lightly, and tears streamed down her face mournfully. "Does it matter to you whether I'm okay? Do you still have the heart to care about me now? If I hadn't received the news of your wedding today, I'd still be in the dark. Ethan, are you really that afraid I'll ruin your new marriage?" As her words fell, the stepdaughter who had just been taken backstage ran out crying, suddenly throwing herself into Emily's arms and sobbing loudly. "Dad and Auntie have a new little brother, so they won't want Anna and Mom anymore. He doesn't want Anna and Mom anymore. Ethan ignored my pale face beside him and, without a second thought, rushed toward the mother and daughter on the stage. After pulling Emily and her mother into his arms, he urgently declared, "No, that's not true. You and Mom will always be my treasures. I don't want anyone else and I would never abandon you. You are the most important people to me." Emily tilted her head back, raised her eyebrows at me, and flashed a provocative smile. Listening to Ethan's resolute promise, I finally regained my composure and asked him in a hoarse voice, "What about me? Ethan, what am I to you?" I stared fixedly at his retreating figure. At this moment, the lavish wedding stage had become my prison. The polished floor reflected my current appearance, face as pale as paper, dressed in a magnificent wedding gown, yet not a trace of happiness or joy could be found in my eyes. After a long while, Ethan finally turned to look at me, his eyes full of accusation. "Clara, you've known about my relationship with Emily all along, haven't you?" My mind went blank, and I replied in disbelief, "What did you say?" Ethan stared into my eyes, pressed his lips together, and suddenly spoke with conviction, "Emily's health is fragile, she can't handle stress. If you hadn't flaunted this wedding in front of her, how could she have fallen ill and fainted? How could she have forced herself to come here with her still recovering body to give you her blessings? Sign that prenuptial agreement for me right now." I swayed, barely able to stand, my ill-fitting high heels cutting into my feet until they bled profusely. I wanted to laugh, but tears fell like broken strings of pearls, sliding down continuously, spreading a large wet stain on my wedding dress. He pretended all this time just to show his sincerity to his ex-wife. What a painstaking act of false affection. I wiped the tears from my face, looked at Ethan, the love in my eyes fading, my voice hoarse. "I won't sign it, Ethan. If you want to show your sincerity to Emily, why drag me into it? Forcing me to sign a prenuptial agreement to reassure your ex-wife? Do you think you're being especially romantic?" Emily curled up in his arms, shaking her head desperately, crying softly, "Clara, don't say that about Ethan. He's just worried about me. Those agreements were something I wrote before just for fun. I didn't expect him to take them out to make you sign just to cheer me up. Please don't be angry, okay? It's all my fault." She spoke in a weak, apologetic tone, but the smile at the corners of her eyes and brows refused to be suppressed. Whenever Emily cried, Ethan's heart ached. He gripped Emily's arm tightly, veins bulging, and shouted at me coldly, "Clara, can you stop being so bitter and harsh? Would it kill you to say less? If you don't sign that agreement, then don't even think about getting married today." His words were like blades glinting with cold light, each one piercing my heart until it bled. The pain reached its peak, yet numbness and relief began to emerge. When Ethan said he wouldn't get married, it was like suddenly handing a lifeline to me, drowning in despair. Confused and helpless, not knowing where to go, I slowly slipped off my blistering high heels. Barefoot on the cold floor, the chill spread up from my soles, making me shiver all over. For some reason, a dull ache pulsed intermittently in my lower abdomen. I looked at Ethan and forced a faint smile through the pain. "All right, as you wish, then we won't get married." Emily's eyes suddenly lit up, her hand trembling as she clutched the corner of Ethan's shirt. But she cried out, "No. Ethan, go comfort Clara, please don't be mad at her, okay? I'll leave right now, I won't ruin your wedding." After saying that, Emily wobbled as she stood up from the wheelchair, pushed Ethan aside, and tried to walk out crying. But she hadn't taken 2 steps before she collapsed heavily to the ground, her face pale without a trace of color. Ethan scooped her up into his arms, carefully settling her back into the wheelchair, his voice trembling with worry. "Emily? Are you okay? Are you all right?" Emily shook her head, desperately pushing him toward me. "Don't worry about me. Go comfort Clara, apologize to her, okay? Don't let your happiness be ruined because of me, your ex-wife." Ethan listened to her words, his jaw clenched tightly. He looked at me again, a flash of anger igniting in his eyes, then suddenly turned and strode toward me. Like a madman, he grabbed my hand and pressed my fingerprint haphazardly onto the prenuptial agreement. I cried and struggled, the agreement crumpled into a ball, but it only fueled his fury even more. Ethan recklessly dragged me down from the altar, and before I could even react, he violently shoved me down at Emily's feet. His voice was filled with gritted teeth and hatred. "Are you satisfied now? Clara, this is something that could have been easily resolved with just your signature, and now look at the mess you've made. Aren't you proud of yourself, huh? Do you really think that just because I'm pregnant, I have to tolerate you without any limits?" He used great force, and I couldn't break free at all, suddenly crashing heavily to the ground. A sharp pain gripped my lower abdomen, and my vision blurred in waves. After a long while I still couldn't get up, only able to slump down in despair. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead in layers, the sweat trickling into my eyes, dry and stinging. Ethan looked down at me from above, his eyes devoid of any warmth, filled only with blame. Even though he knew I was already pregnant, he still pushed me to the ground without hesitation. At this moment, looking at his ferocious expression, what flashed through my mind was the joy he showed when he first found out I was pregnant. On the day we got the pregnancy test results, Ethan's fingertips trembled with excitement. He carefully held me close, choking on his words as he promised, "Clara, thank you for giving me a child. I swear, if I ever let you down, I'll never make a fortune or earn a penny in my life." And now, without any mercy, he shoved me to the ground and shouted angrily, "Don't think that just because you're pregnant, I have to tolerate you unconditionally." When did he start to change? Or has he always been like this, and it was only my love that blinded me before, never allowing me to notice? But I no longer had the heart to argue with him about love or no love. The increasingly intense pain in my lower abdomen made me uncontrollably anxious. I gritted my teeth against the pain and struggled to speak to him. "Ethan, my stomach hurts, help me up. Hurry." Perhaps my trembling voice was too frightening, for the cold expression on Ethan's face finally showed a crack. He instinctively took a step toward me, a flicker of panic in his eyes, his voice tightening slightly. "Clara? Stomach pain? Is it the baby?" Emily suddenly reached out from the side, gripping his sleeve tightly, her voice trembling with tears. "What baby? She's pregnant? Ethan, you got Clara pregnant? You said you'd only ever have one child, Anna. Ethan, are you lying to me again?" Ethan's words caught in his throat halfway through. He pressed his lips together, guilt making him avoid Emily's gaze. He wanted to explain but looked at a loss for how to begin, standing silently in place. I was already sweating cold with pain, my vision blurred. I could only whisper a plea, "Take me to the hospital, Ethan, please." My cries for help were swallowed up in the tense standoff between Emily and Ethan. In the end, it was Emily who gave in first. She bit her lip and slowly nestled into Ethan's arms, pleading softly, "The agreement says Clara can't get pregnant without my permission. Ethan, what you're doing isn't fair to Anna or me." Ethan flinched when he met my hopeless, lifeless gaze, then suddenly pushed Emily away and turned his back. Looking closer, his shoulders were still trembling slightly. I don't know how long passed before I finally heard his cold, indifferent voice, "This child was an accident. Clara, just let it slip away. I'll make it up to you properly later." A single accident lightly decided the life and death of me and the child. The hope that had finally risen was casually torn to pieces by Ethan. He would no longer save me and the child. I was in so much pain that I kept retching, my lower body soaked, the dampness seeping layer by layer through the wedding dress skirt. The guests at the wedding had already gradually left by the time Ethan lost his temper with me. At the scene, only the desperate me and the indifferent man before me remained. In the vast banquet hall, I had nowhere to turn for help. Ethan stood just a step away from me. Clearly, he could have reached out and pulled me up from the floor, yet he didn't even look at me. Veins bulged on his forehead, his tightly clenched fingertips turning white, as if he were the one enduring immense pain. Emily lowered her eyes slightly to look at me, frowning with disgust as she pushed the wheelchair, trying to put some distance between us. Every little sound was amplified in my nerves, stabbing at me. I didn't care that the person in front of me hated me to the bone. I reached out and grabbed the hem of her skirt, using almost all my strength to squeeze out a few words. "I'll separate from him, Emily. I'll give Ethan back to you. Please save me, I beg you, help me call an ambulance, okay? Emily glanced at Ethan's tense back, his shoulders still trembling slightly, then sneered, her contemptuous gaze falling on my face. She smiled softly and said quietly, "Give him back?" No. My vision was already unfocused, yet I still precisely looked at Emily's beautiful, delicate face. I heard my own voice, hoarse and unpleasant as if squeezed from my lungs. Why? Why, even though I have let go, even though I have agreed to divorce and chosen to stay away from you all, am I still forced to clearly feel the loss of life in this cold place? Emily was very pleased with my current state. She leaned close to me and whispered in my ear, "Clara, I know Ethan too well. What you can't have is always the best. You'll be tied to him for life, while I will forever be the ex-wife he holds in his heart, loved but unattainable." My mind went completely blank, and the fingertips clutching Emily's skirt gradually fell limp. A cold, unwilling tear slid down the corner of my eye. In this cruel game of him chasing and her fleeing, only my unborn child and I became the sacrifices of their love. Perhaps the heavy, lingering scent of blood in the hall finally triggered Ethan's nerves. He finally turned back and cast a condescending glance at me on the floor. What met his eyes was nothing but a red that made his heart race. The blood inside me had almost soaked through the heavy wedding dress, the once pure white gown was now glaringly red. Just one glance, and Ethan's face drained of color inch by inch. He finally moved, eyes blazing with fury as he lunged at me, reaching out his hand but too afraid to touch me, only able to grasp my icy fingertips. The chill made his whole body tremble like a leaf, his throat emitting ragged breaths. How could a person have so much blood? It wouldn't stop, no matter what, it just wouldn't stop. Ethan tremblingly took out his phone and dialed the emergency number. After a long moment, he found his lost voice and shouted hoarsely, "Help, hurry. Top floor of Binjiang Hotel, a pregnant woman is hemorrhaging badly, please come save her. I beg you, please come save her." Ethan's burning tears fell onto my cold skin, scorching and painful. So disgusting. Save me, and also, let me go. When I came to my senses again, I was already lying in the hospital operating room. Even though my consciousness was already fading, on the way to the hospital in the ambulance, I still clearly sensed everything that was happening. Ethan, frantic, carried me downstairs, stumbling and falling several times, but he never once loosened his grip on me. Only when the ambulance stopped at the hotel entrance did he collapse heavily to his knees, his voice hoarse and broken. "Pregnant woman, severe bleeding, doctor, please give her a blood transfusion. Save the mother, not the child. Please, I don't want the child, only the mother." So even with my life hanging by a thread, what Ethan was desperately focused on was fulfilling his promise to Emily. How innocent am I? How innocent is my child? He is just over 2 months old, and before this, he was clearly the precious baby I had been looking forward to and hoping for. I couldn't open my eyes, but my body fiercely resisted his touch, desperately trying to pull back the hand he was holding tightly. Ethan noticed this, he didn't let go, instead, he gripped even tighter. Inside the cramped carriage, all that could be heard for a moment were the beeping of the machines and his sobs. "I'm sorry, Clara, I didn't expect it to be this serious. Emily lost a child before too, and there was no heavy bleeding. I thought it would get better quickly. I'm sorry." "Ethan, your apologies are nothing but hypocritical and laughably cheap. I don't know how long I suffered, only that a cold emptiness spread through my abdomen, and the connection between me and the child was completely severed. The moment I lost the child, I couldn't hold back my sobs, tears streaming down my face like broken strings of pearls. Then, I was moved from one unfamiliar place to another. In a daze, Ethan kept holding my hand tightly, never leaving my side. When the effects of the medicine finally wore off, I opened my eyes to see Ethan's face, bloodshot and covered in stubble. Ironically, he was still wearing the suit I had personally chosen for the wedding. Seeing me awake from the coma, Ethan's eyes instantly reddened. He gripped my hand tightly, choking back tears as he said, "Clara, you were unconscious for 3 days. I thought you would leave me and never wake up again. Do you know how scared I was? The doctor said your entire blood volume was almost replaced twice. I can't bear to think what would have happened if we had been even a step later getting you to the hospital. I might have lost you forever." Ethan cried with genuine emotion. I really wanted to ask him if acting like this wasn't exhausting, but my throat was dry, and I couldn't utter a single complete sentence. My lower abdomen ached with an empty hollowness, as if my heart had been ripped out. I reached out to touch it, but only felt a handful of coldness. Ethan stared at me without moving. When he saw my hand on my abdomen, a flicker of guilt crossed his eyes, but he had no choice but to softly comfort me. "Clara, there will be children in the future, we..." Smack. Before he could finish speaking, I raised my hand and slapped him hard. Filled with anger and grievance, I almost used all my strength. But the weakness from the major surgery only left a faint red mark on Ethan's face. I gasped for breath, speaking each word slowly and clearly. "Get out, wipe away your tears, get out." Ethan shook his head, suddenly grabbing my hand and slapping his own face again and again with it. "Clara, you hit me, you can hit me however you want, as long as it makes you feel better. But please don't drive me away, okay? I beg you, don't abandon me, okay?" One slap after another left purple and red bruises on Ethan's face. He looked at me miserably, his eyes full of tears. "You can blame me, scold me, but can you let me stay, take care of you, make it up to you?" I looked at his feigned affection, gagged, and said coldly, "Ethan, do you know the kindest thing you and Emily have done to me?" Hearing me mention Emily, Ethan hung his head guiltily and gave a bitter, self-mocking smile. "That thing is what Emily and I owe you for." I smiled. "You owe me more than just this one thing." "Ha, Ethan, we haven't even gotten our marriage certificate yet." "I'm incredibly grateful that Emily did everything she could to stop us from getting it, and I'm also glad you didn't get it with me just to give her a sense of security. Otherwise, divorcing you would have been such a waste of time." Ethan really panicked this time. He suddenly stood up and tried to pull me into his arms. His voice trembled. "Once you're out of the hospital, we'll go get the marriage certificate, okay? Clara, once you're out of the hospital, we'll go get it right away." Saying those few words drained all my strength. I couldn't break free from Ethan, so I let him hold me and wearily slipped into sleep. In the haze, I seemed to see Ethan's tender gaze, looking at me with a kind of intoxicated devotion. During these days in the hospital, I slept for long stretches, but every time I woke up, the first thing I saw was Ethan sitting by my bedside. Each time, the soup he fed me was a different flavor. Having been together for so many years, I knew Ethan's cooking skills well. These soups were all simmered by his own hands. I used to stew the soup for Emily to help her regain her strength, and now, I finally tasted the broth he had been simmering by the stove for hours. But it was tasteless to me. The day I finally had the strength to get up, I dug out my phone from the cabinet and sent a message to Emily. After sending it, I found a clothing store on a delivery app and bought a few outfits. Ethan came in and saw me playing on my phone, a faint smile lingering in his eyes after days of tension. "Clara, you just recovered, don't overdo it." No sooner had he finished speaking than the phone in his hand suddenly rang. Ethan glanced at the caller ID, pressed his lips together, and hung up. His gaze landed on my face, and he gave a dry laugh. "Just a nuisance call." I pressed my lips tightly and said nothing. Soon, the phone rang again, persistently. Ethan hung up repeatedly, then finally said to me, "Clara, I'll take this call outside. Call me if you need anything." He spoke as he walked out, glancing back every few steps. Just as I stepped out of the ward, Ethan's urgent voice came through the corridor. "What's wrong again, Anna? Which hospital is Mom in?" "I'm coming right away." "Don't cry yet, wait for Dad to arrive, it's going to be okay, don't cry." Ethan hung up the phone and immediately rushed downstairs with hurried, uneven steps. If he had looked back, he would have seen me take the delivery bag from the courier and pull out the newly bought clothes. By the way, I packed the ID card he had gotten for me when I was admitted to the hospital, then walked out of the hospital without looking back. In the phone left on the hospital bed was a provocative message from Emily. "Ha, Clara, Do you really think losing a child will keep Ethan tied to you? How can you alone compare to the place Anna and I hold in his heart? He might not care when I'm sick, but what about me and Anna together? Let's see whether Ethan chooses you or us, mother and daughter. Even if I don't want him, you can forget about marrying him. During this time, Ethan stayed by my side without leaving, finally making Emily feel a sense of crisis. The messages she sent me went from calm at first to increasingly frantic. And all I did was send her a message saying I was going to register my marriage with Ethan. Proud to be the ex-wife Ethan loves but can't have, she finally couldn't sit still. She called Ethan frantically, and only when she took Ethan away did I finally have the chance to leave. I will leave this phone on the hospital bed, trusting that the caregiver will definitely hand it over to Ethan. And he will surely see those disgraceful messages Emily sent. This city, which I came to for love, on the day that love ran out, was finally left far behind me. Before boarding, I found Ethan's company website and email, and sent the video I copied from the hotel, showing him forcing me to sign a post-nuptial agreement and causing my miscarriage, to his company's complaint email. What does it matter if I never make money or get rich in my lifetime? I want Ethan to be utterly disgraced, to have his path completely blocked in that industry that values character and integrity, with no chance to start over. I didn't return to my hometown. I didn't want to face the concern and questions from my family for now. That would be like reopening the wound and causing the pain all over again. The plane landed in the southern city, and as soon as I stepped out of the airport, the warm sunlight bathed me, as if dispelling the chill that clung to my body. My tense nerves finally relaxed. After checking into the guest house, I lay down on the bed and quickly drifted into sleep. When I opened my eyes again, it was already noon the next day. This was the first time in a long while that I had slept so soundly without a nightmare. The days in South City passed by slowly like this. I counted the money in my hand and planned to rent a house to open a guest house. All that had happened before felt like a fleeting dream. Just when I thought my life was finally on track, I never expected Ethan to show up on the day the guest house opened. At the bustling entrance of the guest house, he stood there among the crowd, staring at me blankly, saying nothing. Our eyes met, and he gave me an ugly smile, silently saying, "Clara, long time no see." In his eyes was the surprise of a long-awaited reunion. All the blood in my body instantly turned cold. The nightmares and pain buried deep in my heart surged back all at once, tightly wrapping around my heart, suffocating me. Ethan had come. I stood behind the counter, my whole body stiff, my face pale enough to frighten. The new employee Mia noticed my unusual expression and, worried, supported me gently, whispering, "Sister Clara? Are you okay?" My scattered thoughts gradually came back, and I forced a reassuring smile at her, saying, "I'm fine, really fine." Ethan did not affect the opening of the guest house. But I knew, since he found me, it definitely wasn't just to catch a glimpse of me from afar. That night, I couldn't sleep again. The next morning, with 2 huge dark circles under my eyes, I went downstairs. Mia smiled and made me a cup of coffee, then pointed to the table in the living room. "Clara, someone came looking for you this morning. You didn't get up, so they left a message for you on the table." The bitterness of the coffee jolted me awake. Ethan kept it simple, asking to meet at 9 o'clock. The knife hanging over my head finally fell, but instead of the anxiety I felt last night, I finished my coffee in one gulp and headed out. When I arrived, Ethan was already waiting there. He just stood there, his gaze fixed on me blankly until I approached. In just 3 short months, Ethan seemed like a different person. His clothes hung loosely on his frame, and the spark of ambition in his eyes was gone. "Seeing me," he said, "I was fired from the company. Ruined and with nowhere to turn." I smiled faintly, keeping a safe distance, ready to run at any moment. "So? Are you here to get revenge on me now?" Ethan was stunned for a moment. His gaze fixed on my face, and he slowly shook his head. "Clara, I searched for you for a whole 3 months, from north to south, everywhere I could think of. Nanching was the last place I looked for you. I originally thought that if I still couldn't find you this time, I would accept my fate. But fate didn't let me down, didn't it? I looked at him calmly, my eyes cold and devoid of any emotion. Ethan, what do you want to say? When he met my calm and unruffled gaze, the hope in Ethan's eyes dimmed inch by inch. But a trace of unwillingness still made it hard for him to speak. Ethan looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and pleaded softly, Clara, can we start over? Ethan had lost a lot of weight, and when he said this, he looked at me cautiously, full of a sense of brokenness. In the past, whenever his eyes reddened, I would unconditionally fulfill any request he made. So he dared to ignore all my emotions and pull out that humiliating prenuptial agreement right at the wedding. He also dared to push me to the ground, letting me lose the child I had never even met. Unfortunately, Clara, who once loved Ethan without a shred of dignity, died along with that child at the wedding. He killed them with his own hands. Ethan cautiously stepped toward me, slowly reaching out his hand to touch me. But before he could touch me, I took a few steps back to avoid him. I looked at him, my voice cold, Don't touch me, I find you disgusting. Seeing my cold and disdainful gaze, Ethan stopped in front of me, a flash of despair in his eyes. He opened his arms like before, pulling me into his embrace, then buried his head in the side of my neck, whispering softly with longing. But my undisguised disgust shattered all of Ethan's hopes. He said, Clara, I know you're still blaming me because of the child, but I realize my mistake, I really do. Give me one more chance, let me protect you, love you, okay? If you like the child, then in the future we. Hearing Ethan mention the child I lost so casually, I could no longer suppress the pain and anger inside me, and I slapped him hard across the face. Unlike last time, this time I used almost all my strength. Smack. The sharp sound of the slap echoed through the cafe, drawing the attention of many around us. Ethan's face turned to the side from the blow, and a clear finger mark quickly appeared on his cheek. He suppressed the tears welling up in his eyes and asked me, Have you hit enough? Suddenly, I felt that entangling with him was utterly meaningless. In Ethan's eyes, when I hit him and scolded him, it seemed more like I was forgiving him. My palm throbbed painfully and went numb. I took a deep breath, swallowing the bitterness in my throat. Ethan, you have no right to mention the child to me. You will never have the chance to seek that child's forgiveness. Ethan stood frozen in place, his throat moving as a storm of emotions surged in his eyes. After a long silence, he finally looked at me, took several deep breaths, and said hoarsely, You'll never forgive me again, will you? You hate me, don't you? I looked into his lifeless eyes and nodded. Yes, I hate you. Ethan, if you truly feel guilty, then please do one last good thing for me. Stay far away from me and never come to disturb my life again. After I spoke the last sentence, the sorrow in Ethan's eyes was so heavy it seemed impossible to lift. He suddenly dropped to his knees before me, trembling all over, choking back sobs as he struggled to speak. I just want to watch you from afar, is that not allowed? Clara, please, don't shatter my last hope. I was utterly fed up with his persistence and asked him bluntly, What about Emily? What about your daughter Anna? Are you just going to abandon them? When Ethan heard me mention Emily, a flash of resentment crossed his eyes, and he ground his teeth as he said, A woman like her doesn't deserve it at all. If she hadn't interfered, you and I would never have come to this point, and I wouldn't have lost our child. I scoffed, looking at him with eyes full of mockery, Her like that? Ha, Ethan, no matter how Emily is, isn't it all because you spoiled her? Now you're blaming everything on the woman. Honestly, I really look down on you. Don't bother me again, or I won't hesitate to upload those videos online, Ethan. I mean what I say. After saying that, I left the cafe without looking back. Ethan is a smart man, and smart men are best at weighing pros and cons. Since then, Ethan has never appeared in my life again. It was already a year later when I heard news of him from a mutual friend. My guesthouse business was thriving, gaining some fame in the southern city, and I had even opened several branches. A friend told me that Ethan had died. After returning from the southern city, Ethan accepted his family's arrangements and began going on frequent blind dates. He had completely given up on Emily. The most recent time, the date with the bride's family had already been set, and on the day of the engagement, Emily burst into the hotel. Her eyes red as she confronted him. "Ethan, do you really not want me anymore?" Ethan now looked at her with nothing but disgust. His voice was cold as he said, "A proper ex-wife should be as good as dead." Whether it was this sentence that pushed Emily over the edge, her emotions suddenly shattered. She grabbed a fruit knife nearby and lunged at Ethan like a madwoman. Ethan was caught off guard. During the struggle, a fruit knife pierced straight through his artery. Before friends and family could call for emergency help, he had already bled out and died. His face was streaked with tears in his final moments. As for Emily, she was sentenced to a heavy penalty for intentional murder. The child, having lost guardians one after another, was sent back to live with his grandparents in the countryside. After hearing my friend speak, I was momentarily stunned, as if something was stuck in my throat, neither able to spit it out nor swallow it down. After a long while, sunlight streamed through the window, slanting across my skirt. I lowered my lashes and calmly walked to the window, letting the warm sun chase away the winter chill.